Hi, I'm Amanda McCoy Flanagan.
And I'm Jenny Oliva Smith. Welcome to Soul Rising.
On this podcast, you will hear honest, off-the-cuff, vulnerable conversations about all things love, loss, and connection.
Deep and meaningful conversations sure to pull at your heartstrings and enlighten your soul.
Again, welcome. It's time to let your soul rise. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Soul Rising podcast. I'm so excited to bring you my special guest today, my friend Andrea Ashley from the Adult Child podcast. Andrea was real. I get confused. Is it Ashley? Is it Andrea?
Everybody, it's just not Andrea. That's all that matters.
Straight up Andrea. I like it. You were lovely enough to have me on your show, and we had a really great conversation about all things addiction and recovery, emotional abandonment, stuff that you're into. So I'm really excited to bring you and your knowledge and your wisdom and your experience. So do you want to take a minute and introduce yourself?
Stuff that I'm into. Emotional abandonment. Lovely. Yeah. Andrea, not Andrea. That's the only way that anyone can fuck up. Recovering alcoholic. I had 15 years in September.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I like to refer to myself as a recovering shit show. All the things, codependency, love addiction, all that shit. And I started my podcast. It's coming up on 3 years. I think my first episode was March 31st of 21. But like in a nutshell, I had no idea how much of my childhood impacted me. And I continue to be blown away at how much my childhood impacted me. And it was at 7 and 9 years where I just really saw the ways in which my unresolved childhood trauma was surfacing and playing out in my life. And that was after assuming that, my childhood wasn't great, but I definitely didn't think it qualified as trauma at all. And so, yeah, it's just been this never-ending unfolding of the journey. And so I learned about the term adult children of alcoholic and dysfunctional families. Initially, the term was just adult children of alcoholics, but it didn't take them long before they realized that the term was applicable to many different types of dysfunctional families. And so, yeah, I realized that I was an adult child and started healing this shit and still healing this shit. And part of that, too, was trying to figure out why I was put here. What's my purpose? And that led me to launching the podcast and then my community. And so the past few years have just been building that and really just continuing to heal in a very public way.
What is that like?
I've been going through a hard time, and the holidays was just really hard, and not necessarily the holidays, but just the timing of everything. And so I don't know how to be any other way than just completely authentically myself. And so crying, I couldn't cry. I didn't start crying until about a year ago. Throughout all this journey, I've been so stuffed. I've just been so stuffed up. And so to now be able to just to cry on the podcast, and you know what? I've never advertised or tried to come across as I'm not a fucking expert. I'm not healed. I'm just another one of you just along for the ride. And so a part of me, not a part of me, I know in my heart and soul that I was brought into this life to be a voice for this cause. It's a great honor, but also it's extremely painful. It's sometimes I just want to be all right, enough, God. That's how I felt the past few months. It's just been all right, can I catch a break? Come on, enough.
Doing this work, we have to relive things, right? As we're in this work and we're trying to heal ourselves and then help other people also, we're constantly in it. My work is very much about grief. So I'm constantly feeling the grief, and I can't not feel that, or else it will become inauthentic. I can only give away what I feel and my own experiences. So I have to keep going into that place to be able to keep giving it away. Right?
Absolutely. And where I really see the fruits of my labor is in my community, and the vulnerability and the honesty in what people share in my groups is, like, beyond anything I've ever experienced, like, in a 12-step meeting, and I know it's
Mhm.
'cause I show up as myself and I don't hold anything back, and so, like, it's really quite amazing to hear what people are willing to share in group, like, stuff that is
Mhm.
really shameful. Well, I mean, to them, that they wouldn't really want most people to know, and,
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
one of, like, the biggest gifts or blessings or thing that I'm most, like, grateful for that really moves me the most is, like, that I've created a space where people, like, really feel safe sharing anything without any fear of judgment.
That's
So
amazing, and it's because you're sharing your own, like you said, and it's giving people permission and a comfortable, safe place to then share their own experience because you set the example. You
mhm,
you you do it first, right? Sometimes we have to step out and be the ones to do it first, and then it allows everybody else to say, "Okay, I can be real here because
mhm.
she's being real."
Yeah, and I also know that, like, the reason a lot of the stuff that I'm dealing with now is coming up is because I have the support or the community there to support me through it versus, like, in the past, I don't know if I've had this kind of support of people who, like, really get it, you know?
Yeah, I totally get that. Like, I feel like I knew about my issues with emotional intimacy for like a while. Like, it was put to me back in like 2009. And then I read Brene Brown's book, Daring Greatly, and
Mhm,
spoke more about that. And I was like, okay, this is ringing a bell, but I didn't have any way forward. I wasn't in
mhm,
therapy at that time. So I think my brain like tried to protect me and was like, "Oh, no, 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 that's not you." That, talk you out of it because
mhm.
I didn't have that safe place, but now you have that community. That's awesome. Can you tell us more a little bit about your groups? What do you do? Are they Zoom
Yeah,
workshops or
Zoom,
what?
so they're 4 times a week. It's like a 12-step meeting, but it's just a lot looser, I typically have a reading, but people can share whatever they want, and we just allow more crosstalk. I mean, the groups are smaller, under
Mhm.
40 people. Crosstalk from the perspective of not, like, telling people what to do, but, like,
Yeah.
commenting directly on, like, what somebody else says and how it impacts them, and I think that that's important. Not everybody is in a 12-step program, most people are. It's just a little bit looser. We curse, it just feels more like family. It's more personal. There's a lot more laughter. I mean, there's laughter in AA meetings, but yeah, I just feel, like, so at home to it's like it's like finding your, like, AA group, like, finally really finding your group of people that you, like, really, 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 really feel safe with, and then just, like, a little bit more comfortable. So, I mean, we laugh, we cry, we do all the things. I think the laughter is, like, the most important piece too, so we meet a couple times a week. We're going through have you looked at the Inner or the Loving Parent Guidebook?
I've seen it and I've heard of it, and my sponsor has it.
Mhm,
We do meetings at her house on Wednesday nights, just some women, and
mhm,
we try to pick a topic out of that. We'll just
mhm,
flip to something. So we're trying to like talk about stuff in there, but I haven't actually gone through it. That might be in the future. Right now, I'm reading Codependent No More
mhm.
with
First
my
time?
yes, and then we had a workbook. Me and my sponsor were going through it, but yeah, that's been eye opening for me. I mean, I've always known that I had codependent behaviors, but like, I kind of thought I didn't anymore. I kind of thought like I don't know like that, right?
Yeah,
And then like I'm reading this stuff, and I'm like, holy shit, that's me. Like I'm still doing that, or I'm still feeling that way, right? Getting honest with myself. But tell us about the loving. What is it? Loving
we're
parent
going
hand.
through yeah, Loving Parent Guidebook, and we're just I have a group on Monday where we're going through it. I mean, it's heavy, man. We're going
It
through it
is.
slow, and it's getting to know all those inner family members, so inner child, inner teenager, critical inner
Mhm.
parent. There's a lot there. I'm still trying to connect with some of those like pieces. I think that it's definitely something I'll have to go through again. One thing that's been really interesting, the chapter that we've been going through now is on feelings, but it's about separating out your judgments from your feelings, which I think is really interesting. So to say like I feel abandoned, well, that's a judgment. It's like I feel sad because I feel like this other person may or may not be abandoning me, or like I feel rejected. Like rejected is not necessarily a feeling, it's a judgment. And so like really getting underneath into like what are the particular feelings. And it's been really useful for me because I'm going through something like with a friend. I feel very much like abandoned, betrayed, blindsided. But to be able to use this and get really clear in what the feelings are and being able to express that to that person and not like not saying like I feel abandoned, but like really being like I feel whatever the feeling is. And then because X, Y, and Z. I've been finding
It's
that
taking
really, really useful.
it's taking the blame off of the other person because I feel abandoned, right? Automatically assumes you abandoned me.
Mm-hmm.
So getting really honest with the I feeling. That's huge. I love that. Really getting to the heart of what am I actually feeling here instead of just saying what happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the difference between when in writing they talk about showing versus telling.
Mm-hmm.
And showing is really getting to the heart of the feeling and then being able to express that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the telling is just like, this is what happened A, B, and C. So I feel abandoned. You really don't feel abandoned. Maybe you were abandoned or you think you were abandoned, but what's the feeling? Because then you can start to heal it. I love it.
Yeah, they say like if you I think what does it say in there? It says like I feel as if there were like a couple different examples that like if you're using those, then you're really saying a judgment. You're not saying a feeling, which I thought was
Oh,
useful.
and how insidious is that judgment? My God, I still catch myself all the time. It's like I go to that default, and I think we know survival traits, right? It served us at some point when we had to size up our environment or size up our situation, or how should I act so this person approves me, so then I don't feel abandoned, like all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So it's in us. It's like in the core of us. Like what happens, I guess, between birth and like 12 years old, I would maybe
Yes,
guess. I don't know
absolutely.
really scientifically. That shit is in you.
No kidding.
And it takes a lot of freaking work and awareness and stopping, being conscious, shifting the thought, using your tools, all that. And a lot of people, I think, just don't have the time to like slow down and say, well, what is that I just felt? And then explore it. And then maybe explore it with a professional
Mm,
or a 12 step program. So this takes a lot of time. It's no surprise that you're going through some shit right now every couple of years in recovery. I
and
hit like another dark night of the soul.
and it comes from like all it just comes from all over, right? I feel like I'm just getting hit from all different sides, but it's all like mom shit,
Right.
it's all mom shit.
Yep. Yep. Or dad shit for some people,
Okay.
but a lot of
Yeah.
it is the mom stuff, the relationship, especially with a mother and a daughter.
I had the realization that so much of my healing up until this point has been very conscious,
Mhm.
in the head. And
Yes.
I had a hard time with like the inner child. Like I knew that it was valuable, but it just seemed so corny to me. It just seemed so
Right.
corny for such a long time.
Mm.
And then really just coming to terms with how important that is. And then also how important the somatic piece is. And like, I can do all the talk therapy in the world or thinking about this stuff, but until I really deal with what is stored in my body and connect to
Yes.
that and let that come out, that was
Yep.
another piece that I really just, I mean, I consciously understood like that that's important, but it's been through the past, I don't know, 9 months that I've really seen like, oh, okay, like you, like this is how you heal actually.
What are you doing? Like, kind of body, like
Different
breath
things. I mean,
work?
it's a lot of breath work, but really mostly what I'm trying to do is when the things come up, like really sitting in it, like really sitting in it and trying to notice like where it is that I feel it in the body and just really be with those sensations and those feelings and kind of like I guess a little bit of like parts work trying to ask what is this part trying to tell me, but really just sitting through the uncomfortable feelings, but the breath work has been like really helpful.
Mm. Interesting you're saying this because for the past like week or so, I've been really thinking about because as I'm trying to plan my own workshops and stuff, I want to bring in that somatic piece because that's
Mhm.
really where healing comes in. And I do breathing, I engage the vagus nerve and I do yoga nidra sometimes. And I can feel when I try to relax and something's not relaxed, right? And then I heard recently just let it like roll through, like
Mhm.
wherever you feel a blockage or a stop, just try and let it roll through.
Mhm.
I've done RRT, which is rapid resolution therapy
Mhm.
and I've also done EFT tapping,
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. So that helps, but I don't feel like I've dove into it like I should have because We do not heal trauma by reliving trauma. Talk therapy does not work for trauma. It just makes it worse because we need to rewire our neural pathways. And when we're constantly talking about it, reliving it, we're actually carving deeper pathways.
Hmm.
You can't make sense of trauma. Like you said, it's stored in the body, it's stored in the brain. So, yes, it all comes
I
down
think
to
it can
that
be
stuff.
helpful to an extent. Like if you're working with somebody who knows what's going on, like I do think that it's helpful in the sense of like understanding certain things. If
Right.
you have
Yes.
somebody who like really does understand like the dysfunctional family dynamics
Yeah.
and the way it's like manifesting in your behavior. So I do think it definitely can be helpful. It's not the only way through, but I think it's mostly helpful when you're working with somebody who like actually understands this shit. If you're just like working with like the average regular Joe therapist, it's probably not going to be that helpful. But if you have somebody who really is able to like point out the intricacies and yeah, like diving deeper to see like what could be really triggering certain things, I think it's really helpful to understand things. Um
I agree. I agree. And the belief systems, like my therapist worked really well with me in that, like, okay, well, she used to say, all right, so this is what you think might happen because you're hypervigilant and because of your trauma. What if you tell yourself, well, what if that's not true?
mhm.
To put me back in
Sure.
reality and get like a new perspective, a realistic perspective on the situation. Because also being alcoholic, we go black and white, right? We go 0 to 60. We are just extreme thinkers like that. So it does help to bring it back to say, what's the root of this? Where is this coming from? And is this true? What evidence do you have pointing to this? Or is this just your trauma speaking?
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm really blessed. I had a great therapist. I stopped seeing her maybe I don't even know, a year ago when I was in with her, just her. I've been in therapy before, but with her for like 5 years. And that I did the tapping with her, and then I did the rapid resolution after that to heal some traumatic loss, some sexual trauma. So it's all good. It's all good. Like it's not one or the other.
Mm-mm.
It's both, right?
Well, the worst is like when what you're talking about, like, is there evidence? Is this true? One of the most painful experiences is when, like, yeah, consciously you know that, like, you're able to, but it doesn't fucking matter. Like, you still feel the exact same way in your body.
Journey from the head to the heart, right? It's the longest journey.
It doesn't matter.
You could
Yeah.
know it, right? That's why self-knowledge is not enough, just like with addiction.
Hmm. So that's just like where I've been is like feeling so sane yet insane at the same time, you know?
I get that.
Really
Yeah.
miserable.
I've been having a lot of down days myself. Like I was telling you before we got on the show, like just I don't know. I think it's like hormonal, but it's also this breaking away. I like tarot and I watch a lot of videos and stuff like that. And I keep getting a tower card. Do you know about the tower card in tarot? So that's like falling down of like old structures,
Mhm.
or it could be evidenced out like in physical reality, like losing a job or losing a relationship or a home or something like that to then rebuild. It's actually a very positive card, but you got to go through the hell first before you get to the other side. And for me, I believe it's this breaking down of old belief systems. And that's been very painful because they've kept me safe for a
Mhm.
very long time, right? Denial works. Some denial is actually healthy because it kept me safe. But now, as we have more time in the program and we keep peeling these layers, more is revealed. That's like one of the truest statements ever. More will be revealed.
Yeah,
The more
always, always. More when you think more won't be, just wait.
I know. I love it in the
Work hard.
meetings.
I'm fucking done building towers. Enough already.
Exactly. Can I just have a freaking break? Can I just
Yeah.
hang out in the hammock? Do I really need to
Yeah.
be in the tower? And I love in meetings when I hear people like, oh, yeah, the second year is the hardest. So I'm like, just wait till you're 9,
You know,
then wait
shit.
till you're 12.
Mhm. Well, do you feel like I don't know, like, do you feel like in a lot of your meetings that people are being real about experiencing a lot of pain, like, in longer term sobriety?
So to out myself, I don't go to a large variety of meetings.
Mhm.
So we have the Castle Rock Clubhouse here, and I was part founder of that.
Mhm.
So that's where I go, and because of my schedule,
Mhm.
there's only a couple of meetings that I go to. I go to like 2 AA, 1 ACA usually. I go to ACA maybe every other week because it is very heavy
Mhm.
and it kind of just throws all this stuff on that takes some time to shed, right?
Mhm.
So The people that are in those meetings right now, I feel like there is a pretty good group of people with some time that are sharing the truth, that are really sharing the truth. But I don't know. There is maybe an overall sense of life is great. Everything's great. I'm sober. I didn't have to wake up with a hangover today. There's this overall positivity, which is great. But I think maybe people are afraid to really go into it because maybe they're afraid to relapse. I know people who have been in and did the steps and did everything, but really didn't go like deep enough. Like they just got the rewards of like not drinking and that was enough for them. They're just different calibers or qualities of sobriety. I don't know what you want to call it. I don't want to judge anybody's sobriety, but there's it's just different levels, I think, of where people are willing to go.
I mean, I don't go to a ton of AA meetings, but I was in one. I was in Austin. It was a speaker meeting, and the guy got sober in 92. And God, I was the psycho. I was sitting there like mumbling under my breath the whole time, like no depth, like no depth. I didn't think the guy had any depth. And then he spent the last 20 minutes, it was such a drunk log. Here I am being
Oh,
judgmental, but whatever. It was such a drunk log, but then he got sober. And then the last 20 minutes were just about all the amazing vacations that he've taken in sobriety. And I'm like, like I want to die.
I want to die today. You're in Hawaii.
Fuck, dude.
Shit.
Like, oh, I hate hearing that. I hate, oh, life sucks. I got sober and everything's been great ever since then. Like, no, the fucking hasn't.
Yeah, it's not reality. And I think also just some people are incapable of going there, right? Just
We're
because
going
people
there.
get sober. Yeah, just because people get sober doesn't mean that they're seeking, any sort of spiritual wisdom or real true growth. They just want the pain to stop.
Yeah.
They just want to get the marriage back. They just want to get the job. They just want to look good on surface. Not everybody's going to have that level of depth that you and
And
I
that's
have.
hard. And I think about the close friendships that I cultivated in early sobriety, like my closest friends, and they haven't hit those like subsequent bottoms. And we've grown apart because
Yes.
they haven't
Yes.
they haven't gone to those deeper levels of healing. And I think almost maybe to them, it seems like, is there always something wrong with you? you know? And like,
Mhm.
to me, it's like you're very surface. You don't know yourself in the way in which I know myself. So it's just really interesting.
It is. I think it's an ebb and flow. I can't not go in. I can't not see, right? It's like we just have this third eye thing going on where we can see into ourselves, we could see into others. And like I love when you opened and you talked about, who you are, like you can't not be authentic. And that's part of our authenticity is honoring the things that we see and feel and not pushing them away because we're afraid. I mean, listen, I'm no great sage here. I push things away. I definitely push until I can't anymore. I don't realize I'm doing that. A lot of times this stuff just creeps up and slaps me across the face. And I'm like, I cannot believe that was there all this time. But we can't not see it. But then there's just people who can't see it in the program, out of the program, whatever. They're just incapable of going there. Their fear, maybe, or just their desire. They're just like, I'm good. I'm good.
They're good.
So, yeah, I just would feel like I would be dishonoring myself, I guess, if I was to feel something or see something about myself and then not
Not, yeah, exactly.
go there.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like when we get to a place where we feel safe enough that we're not going to be down and never get up, we might get down. But we always know we're going to get up because we have that past experience, because we're not carrying as much shame. We're not
Mhm.
feeling as low about ourselves. So we feel safer to go into those places. But it takes time. I couldn't do this at 2 years sober, right? It just takes time.
So true.
Tell us about your experience with that.
So the thing that I'm really dealing with now is like not feeling like an adult. The procrastination, the self-sabotage. And I think part of it is like ADHD, part of it is trauma. And I shared this at the end of my last episode that I did of 2023 about how like there's certain years where like it feels like you are not growing at all and it feels like you're regressing. In fact, that's how the past year has felt. Like it's felt like just regression, honestly. But I think what I've realized is like there's periods of time where it's about having these awarenesses and sitting in the pain of the awarenesses And then there's the years that are more about actual growth, but like those years of awareness, like they're not regression. They're absolutely necessary. They're part of the process. They're part of the progress. That's just kind of where I've been at, just looking at and it's like spiritual bypassing, but I didn't do it intentionally. So I'm not sure to
Yeah.
call it spiritual bypassing because I don't know if there has to be an intentionality behind it, but it's really surrounded around feeling like I can't take care of myself, like really feeling like I don't have it in me to actually take care of myself, specifically financially. Just not like living up to my full potential. But I think what a lot of it is like the sadness and the anger related to specifically my mom that I haven't really felt. I'm going all over the place right now.
That's okay.
So yeah, like I just feel like I can't get my fucking act together. Past couple of weeks have really been bad as far as like it's like these tasks, these things that will move me forward. Here's for example, like and I just finished this yesterday, but here's some shame. So a lot of my shame is just around my inability to get shit done. Like why is this such a challenge for me? What is actually going on here? So for example, merch for my store. I was gonna design all this new merch. I was gonna have a sale for Black Friday. A lot of shit started to pop up around the holidays, like right before Thanksgiving. I just didn't have it in me. I did not physically have it in me to get it done and get it ready and have it like, out there. But I announced on the podcast, hey, I'm gonna have this really big Black Friday sale, and I just couldn't
Hmm.
get my act together. And I gave myself some compassion and grace there because I did have a lot of things going on. But since then, it has been the most painful, like grueling I'm torturing myself with the amount of like overthinking and perfectionism and redesigning the same thing like over and over and it's painful. It's so painful. And then obsessing about how it looks on my website, like
Mm.
designing how it looks on my website. And it's like you would think that my main source of income is selling merchandise. Like, you know what I mean? And so it feels so shameful that it's like March, I'm finally done. But like it feels so shameful that it's March. It's been since the Thanksgiving and like the complete inability to get this done and just the hyperfixation, the
Mm.
perfectionism, and then that's coupled with the shame and telling myself I'm gonna get something done. And it's just like a freaking trauma loop. So it's the inability to like adult or to get little things done. And that's not a little thing, but it is just like things in my business, redoing my website, all of those things. It I was sharing this with my group the other day. I know what I'm capable of. It's not that I think that I'm not capable, that I'm less than, that I don't think I'm worthy or all those things. I know
Yeah.
what I'm capable of. I know what my potential is. I feel like I'm not living up to my potential, but then that's also like a very dangerous spot to get into. And so it's this fine line of like accepting where I'm at, accepting my feelings, accepting my experience, showing myself compassion in that respect, then also like how do you pull yourself out of that, you know? And so it's like
Yeah.
not beating the shit out of yourself for what's going on because that's just going to make it worse. But then at the same time, it's like, okay, I also know that I'm capable of so much more. So that's like really where it's at. It's just the shame of feeling like I'm not an adult, like I can't take care of myself. A lot of that is like related to the dynamics that have been created by my parents, especially like the like financial entanglement. And really what it is, it's a way to keep me connected to my parents. Like ultimately, I know that that's
Mm.
a large part of it.
For
There's
them to keep you connected?
yeah,
So they
for
want to keep
me
you
too. I think I think it's both
you
ways.
understand
You
that.
know, I,
Okay.
I think that
Okay.
there's a part of me that believes that somehow I'm keeping them safe by me needing them. And
So codependency. So that sounds like codependency
yeah,
to me.
I mean,
Right?
because like when I was a kid, when I started to act out, like when I became the problem child, that's when my mom stopped drinking as much and my parents stopped fighting as much. They had to come together to deal with me. And I'm like in and out of rehabs and boarding schools and all this stuff. So like that saved the family. Like it did. I mean, but that's not the case now.
So maybe in your brain, if you stay the shit show, like you've called yourself, that's going to keep them
safe.
together and
It's not
okay
true.
and
And it's
safe
not
because they have
true,
to
like,
focus
that's
on
not
you.
happening now, but yeah, there's still, like, a part of me that I think feels that way, believes that. And so it's really hard.
Well, that's the fear part. As you were talking, I was thinking, what's the fear? The fear is that they're not going to be okay. And you're taking that on as and I don't want to psychoanalyze you, but it all goes back to fear coupled with, and you said you had ADD or ADHD, right?
Mhm,
That also, I've been learning lately through a friend that creates an inability to focus unless you're hyper focused,
mhm,
right? Like you described being obsessed with the website.
mhm.
So people don't really understand how that works in the brain, where you can get really hyper focused on on one thing, but then you can't move forward and check things off the list and actually get things
Exactly.
done.
It's called ADHD paralysis, and, like, it's what I've been experiencing, and it's also a way for me to get a shame hit, right? Like, that's also part of it.
Talk more about that. What do you mean? Shame hit. What
Well,
does that mean?
that I'm not getting it done, and it's just, like, allowing me an opportunity to shame myself, you know?
Mm,
It's like that addiction to that negative excitement. It's a way for me to, like,
yes.
reinforce those beliefs that I really don't believe are true, but obviously there's a part of me that does. It's a lot of inner teenager stuff too. I think it's my inner teenager protecting my inner child. It's the acting out. It's just so freaking scary. And it just feels like there's been so many awarenesses coming in from so many different areas, and it all just seems so overwhelming too. It's like, God, there's so much work that I need to do, and there's all these different modalities, and there's like, it's like, where do I begin? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just been kind of in that place where it's like there's so much to heal and there's so much to do, and it all seems so very overwhelming. It's all part of the trauma experience too. And so it's about slowing down. I'll tell you another part of it is like this stupid fucking phone. Like my brain is fucked because of this thing.
Yep. It's like really scary. Like I cannot hold on to a thought. And I think it's because our brains are being rewired with these things that we have to have constantly around. I mean, it goes with me everywhere. And I'm like, stop, just stop. And I swear I'll pick up my phone to put something in my calendar or whatever. And I'm on Instagram.
Mhm.
And I'm like, how the hell did that happen? It's like this unconscious thing that our brains are being wired. Have you seen the show Social Dilemma
Mm-mm.
on Netflix? Scary. Don't watch it before bed. It literally kept me up. But it doesn't take a lot to keep me up at night. But it shows how it's actually like rewiring like our like
Is that on
like
Netflix?
it's on Netflix. I don't know if it's still on. I saw it a while ago. It's bad. It's
I
really, really bad. And they figured out a way to get us addicted to it. The dopamine hits, the whole thing. It's just scary.
Well, I wonder how much of like my ADHD is actually the result of the phone stuff. Like because I didn't used to
Yes.
have this problem. And it's extreme. And I understand people say that, but I'm telling you, like, compared to other people, like, it's extreme. And it's not social media, it's games, Candy Crush, or this other game that I play. And I have a complete
Uh-huh.
inability to just sit. I'll be in a group and I'll put my phone down. I'm like, all right, put it aside. And then you're right. It's like 15 minutes later. I'm like, how the fuck is my phone in my hand?
It's just crazy. And it's all screens. My daughter the other day was in the kitchen doing something and she heard my other daughter in the living room watching a show. And she all of a sudden, like I just kind of watched her and she just went, "Zoop," and she just like forgot what she was doing. She was like in the middle of her homework or something. And next thing she's on the couch. And like 10 minutes later, I'm like, how did this happen? Weren't you just doing your homework? I'm like, you just got sucked in. It sucks you in. So we have to be even more disciplined. And speaking about like before what you were saying about like giving yourself compassion and grace for not being able to do it all and to get it all done. And that is awesome. And we need a lot of that. But then you also talked about, well, then where is that line of like discipline? Can we constantly let ourselves off the hook with this compassion, with this self-compassion and grace? Is everything just okay? Or is there a point where I have to actually push myself and do the hard things and change? So it's really kind of day by day, like ebbing and flowing again, like checking in with where I'm at and what am I really capable of today, cutting myself some slack when I'm not, right? Like having those down days I was telling you about. Like I found myself in the bath at like 1 o'clock on probably Tuesday and then again on like Friday, like just in the middle of the day. Like I need to just escape. I need to get in the bath. I need to get a book, cutting myself a little slack for the days when I cannot, just cannot do it. But being very honest with myself. Can I or can I not? Right? Are we turning into a society where like just everything is acceptable and everything is okay? Or where do we hold our feet to the fire versus where we cut ourselves some slack, I guess is the what I grapple with as well.
Yeah.
And-
I think for me, when I really think about like what is the first course of action here, or like really what's important, it's I need to be in my body a lot more, or even just a little bit more. I think that's really what it comes down to is like whatever I need to do to like reset. I actually just started. Do you know who Irene Lyon is?
No, Irene Lyon.
Yeah, she's like a nervous system gal, but I just started doing a 21-day like nervous system reset. And I think really what it comes down to for me is like I just need to be living in my body just like a little bit more, a little bit more.
That's when we're present. That's what really feels the best is being present. You
Mhm.
can't not be present when you're feeling into your body. That's the only place you are. You really can't be in all these other places when you're focusing on what's going on in your body.
But it's really interesting now that we're talking, like obviously it's trauma, it's all those things, but like how much of it too is just like it's just this. How much different would my days be if like I got, like if I just didn't it seems so scary. The thought of like not having it for like 24 hours, like that seems impossible. How much more productive and happy would all of us be? This is the
Yep.
problem. This is
It,
everything.
it
And
is.
everything that they're talking about right now, like on the news, is like once the smartphone was developed, like we're all going to shit. We're all gonna fucking die now because of this. Here.
Dude, when I was drinking, when I was like 20, I was hot on this like idea of the three roots of all evil. And money was the first, alcohol was the second, and technology was the third. Now, this is 25 years ago. I started on this, like, I would go around the bars and be like, we need to have a revolution. We need to stop. I felt this like thing inside of me that the technology, although, and people who are listening are probably like, no, you guys are wrong.
No.
I definitely, I definitely feel like it's helpful in the medical world. I'm not down with the AI. I don't, I think it really strips a lot of creators from, it's actually what I've been saying is it's taking the human out of humanity, all the AI stuff. But the technology in general is great, especially for medical or for space or for whatever. But as it's getting so ingrained in our everyday minutia of our lives, everything is on this, right? My grocery list, my every idea I have. So I was in a meeting yesterday. We meditate for the first 3 minutes. And after my meditation, I got an idea. I was like, because I'm gonna start actually doing my own meditations and sending them out. So I pulled out my phone and I wrote it down because if I don't write it down, I'm going to forget because I'm going to be distracted by 65 other things. And then later in the day, I'm going to be like, oh, what was that thought? And it's going to piss me off that I forgot. But it looks really rude to pull your phone out in the middle of a meeting. We're just very dependent on it. And I don't know. Do you think it's ever going to pass or you think it's here for like ever till like the end of time?
I mean, I think like the world's gonna end like in a year anyways, so it's kind of hard to say. Like not kidding.
My language, girlfriend. You are
Yeah.
speaking my language.
Like
I'm sure we're here.
there's
To tell the truth, I'm
no,
we're still here.
it's gonna be like AI is gonna get us. Not to be like really pessimistic and like negative, but there is a part of me that's like, all right, do we really need to figure this shit out? Because I'm pretty sure we're not gonna be here for much longer.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't want to be doom and gloom either, but it's just creating this massive disconnection. And that's why Ginny and I started this podcast, All in on Love, Loss, and Connection, because we want to try and bring people back to their humanity and to their emotions and their feelings. And like you're talking about being in your body, because when we're not, we are disconnected. Like this thing that originally was supposed to be to connect us more, right? To be able to FaceTime your family and social media so you could see each other.
it's interesting. Like, thankfully for me, like I don't get hyper fixated on social media. Like it doesn't pull
Mhm.
me in, which is very interesting. It's like playing games and stuff. But like
Yeah.
as we're sitting here and we're talking, like, yeah, my phone has like fucking ruined my life. I just think about when I was in college and I took like the CPA exam. I didn't have this problem. Whatever, like 10 years ago. I didn't. I could study, I could get shit done. I didn't have time management problems. I know that my trauma is coupled in with that, but it's my fucking phone. My phone has ruined my
It
brain.
is. It's a lot to do that. I was always the last. I was the last to get the cell phone. I was the last to join Facebook. I only joined Facebook because I moved from New York to Colorado and I wanted to keep in touch with people. I've always been very hesitant and I can't deny that, right? It's also tapping in, trusting what I'm feeling, my intuition. I'm sold. I feel the exact same way as you do. And I think it's more hurtful than it is helpful. Like I said, I think it is helpful in a lot of ways, but I think it's more hurtful because especially that this motion here causes depression. I don't know the science of it, but it's something about the reuptake of the serotonin and all this kind of stuff. that when your spine is in this position, it like a lot of kids, teenagers, right? We have a massive suicide problem, especially here where I live in Douglas County in Colorado,
Really?
amongst teenagers. Yes. And middle-aged men, apparently too. Because that's because they don't feel comfortable sharing their feelings and talking. That's a different story. But with the teenagers, the bullying that goes on those phones and the appearance and everything is fake, right? Like we're getting so far away from our authenticity when we keep saying that's what we want. Everybody keeps saying that's what we want.
But
And we're just getting,
nobody's connecting with each other like on a genuine level.
yeah,
You say shit to each other that like you would never say to the person in real life.
hiding behind a computer. Yep.
Yeah.
To get like the your
Not
muscles.
not authentic connection.
It's not. And Ginny and I put out a show. I think it's episode 11. We called it Down with the Sickness. And what it means is that we are down with the sickness. We're complaining a lot of people. A lot of people love it. A lot of people, but then a lot of people are complaining about it, like you and I, but yet we're still doing it. So we have to take some responsibility for our actions and we can't just blame the powers that be. If there was no demand for it, it wouldn't exist. So we're creating the demand, and there's an argument that they are just responding to our demand.
Right.
People are waking up. People are. We're in a time of enlightenment, but I don't think enough people are aware and
No.
awake to how dangerous this is.
How everything is. I mean, I don't think that most people are aware to like anything that's going on. So
Yes, yes, and that's our job. That's what we're doing here, Andrea. But I'm still hopeful. All that to say, I am still hopeful. I do feel that we're in a bit of a race for time. I do feel that the more people that are that can wake up a little bit more quickly to this kind of stuff we're talking about, and just tapping into their own emotion, just bringing it back to what we started talking about, like being real and true and honest with their past experiences, their childhood, whatever happened, stuff in their 20s, that's whatever it is, and going into that and healing, because that's the only way that we're going to feel inspired, motivated to live our best lives, which I really can't stand that phrase. Living my best life.
you said earlier about showing ourselves compassion versus like, do you just cut yourself slack on everything? And I think the one thing that I'm really trying to do is like, okay, let's pick something like really small. Like, what is something really small that is really attainable for you? And getting our little wins there and just building upon that. Cause, like, I mean, I have a list of a million bajillion things that I've been putting off that I want to get done. It's super unrealistic for me to think like in a day that I can just knock all these things off. That's also part of the ADHD too, is time blindness and thinking that like I can get things done a lot faster than they actually will take. But I think
Mhm.
it is just like building off little things. What is something really small that I can get done that I can feel good about? And then trying to like build upon that, you know?
Yeah, and having patience. Having patience. So much of this stuff takes time.
Mhm.
What did we say? It took a certain amount of time to walk into the forest. It's going to take time to walk out. That's also to do with the shift of our mindset and how we're, wanting to think differently and get out of these dark places.
To relate it back to what I talk a lot about on my podcast and to everything that we're talking about here is that, like, generally speaking, when we're dealing with all of these behaviors, the self sabotage, the procrastination, the living small, all of the things, there's a part of us that thinks that we're keeping ourselves safe. And it's rooted in childhood
Yeah.
in some way or another. And so I think it's really about getting curious about that. What do I think I'm protecting myself on? Because whatever we're doing, like, it, we're not torturing ourselves. We're not trying to make ourselves feel like shit. Like, there's a part of us that believes that we're really doing what's best for us. We're keeping ourselves safe in some way or another. And it's all rooted in some sort of belief system that was developed like young. And so I think that's really where the most important aspect of the compassion and the curiosity is, like, not beating the shit out of yourself over the behavior and really just getting curious about like, what is it that I think I'm protecting myself from?
Thank you so much for saying that. It's what my whole book is about. It's about this fear of loss, right? We're afraid of losing something, either a piece of ourselves or a reputation or a person or a thing or whatever we think we should have, or something we have to be taken away, right? Like that's typically how we define fear. But 100% keeping us safe. It's all about emotional protection. But what's the worst that's going to happen? I was also taught that too a long time ago. Ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen if I take that risk? If I take that leap? As you were talking about your procrastination and stuff, I was wondering um
But that's viewing
what
it from a logical point, like sense, and like none of
yeah.
this is logical.
It's not none of it was logical. Like we're trying to figure it out. My sponsor in New York told me a long time ago, I have the figured out isms.
Mhm.
And I'm constantly trying to figure shit out. And sometimes it's unfigure outable. It's just not going to happen. Like we just have to let things be and be okay in that uncertainty,
Mhm.
in that not knowing, and just listen to ourselves and do the next right thing and take the next right step. We don't always have to be striving. We don't always have to be succeeding. There's a time for that, and then there's a time to not.
Mhm.
And if you're stuck in that place, listen to that instead of resisting and saying, well, no, I should be doing more. And maybe there's a reason. Maybe your spirit and your soul is slowing you down, right? Which it is because you're having all this growth and these groups and stuff you're doing. That's why it's all coming up for you. It's because you're in the work. So maybe you're not supposed to be charging full steam ahead. Maybe this is a season for you where it's like there's something to be learned here, something that's trying to get my attention, so, like, my spirit's creating its own roadblock. Like, I'm creating my own roadblock and not realizing that I'm doing this to myself because my spirit's trying to get my attention to teach me something else.
Mhm.
I don't know. That might be.
More will be revealed.
You're right.
We always get to the other side. It feels like I'm not going, like, I feel stuck, but experience has shown me that I do always get to the other side and it's always worth it. But sometimes it's just, it's like the waiting. It's the knowing that you're going to get to the other side, but then being in the place like, well, is this going to have to get a lot more painful before I also
Yeah.
like start getting over, it's like, well, shit.
Yeah. And then we resist it because we're afraid we're not going to be able to handle that pain. And like you just said, we both have a 100% success rate of being okay.
Yeah.
The pain, like when we were drinking and drugging, yeah, the pain could have killed us.
Mhm.
But now sober, not dealing with the pain will kill us. It will bring us back. There's two options and they're both painful.
Absolutely.
There's no way around it. So it's going into that pain, using the tools, trusting that we have everything we need. We have the people, we have the support, we have our higher powers, we have what we need to get through this life together.
Mm.
And it's not easy, but it's so worth it. I don't want to be on my deathbed and look back and say, I could have known myself better. I could have loved better. I don't want that. That's like my number one goal in life. Whenever that time comes, and if it's tomorrow, I want to be able to be on that deathbed tomorrow and say I did the best that I could, and I also loved myself and gave myself some compassion along the way.
Mm.
That's probably my goal.
Well, all I know is that I'm never going to be on my deathbed and be like, man, I really wish I played some more Candy Crush.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh my gosh. All right, so let's both try. How about this? Why don't we check in with each other? I have your number. I'll text you because I think that's just a lot easier and I want to be your friend. So I'm going to text you. I hope that's okay.
Yeah.
And let's check in with each other and say, all right, how are you doing
Okay.
today with
Yeah.
the
And I'm going
phone?
to, yeah. And I'm going to make an effort, like after we get off, like no phone for an hour. No phone. No phone.
At least for an hour, exactly. In small bits, like anything, any other habit we're breaking, it needs to be
Absolutely.
done incrementally. Awesome. So is there anything else you want to say? Anything else you want to share to our I'm sorry, I feel like I talked a lot and
No,
that's
I
what
loved it. Go
slowing
check
myself
out my
down.
podcast. If you want to hear about how I hit my bottom, go listen to my first episode. It's called The Tale of Two Brians. If you're unfamiliar with this term, adult children of alcoholic and dysfunctional families, please go read the laundry list. It's the 14 common characteristics of an adult child. The first time I read it, I about shit my pants. There's a very high likelihood that you are one. If you are somebody who's sober and you feel like you should be further along or you should be happy or whatever, like my whole view on all this addiction stuff has like really changed. It's all trauma rooted, in my opinion. There's so much more work to be done. And yeah, it's all childhood. It's all childhood. So go look at the laundry list and your mind will be blown. So
I will post that. I will put that in the description. I'll put a link to it down below. So where can people find you? I will also put your links
yeah,
down below, but
podcast
where
is anywhere adult child, you'll find it. Social media at adult child pod. I've been kind of taken a high, like when I was struggling over the holidays, I really just took a step back. And I'll be honest, it's really been hard to like get myself back into it. So I do need to get back into it some. But yeah, anywhere you can email me at Andrea@adultchildpodcast.com and go listen to my shit, folks.
And your groups, where can they find your groups if they want to join that?
Yeah, I'll give you the link. It's called The Shit Show. I think the website is just like theshitshow.mn, which is like Mighty Networks. I think that's just all it is, but I'll give it to you.
Okay, send me the link. I'll put it in the
Oh,
description.
I will. Thanks, girl. This is great.
Yeah, you're awesome. And thank you for sharing your heart and your soul with us and your truth and your vulnerability. That's what I think attracts people to you, is just you're just so real. So I love you and thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll talk to you soon, all right?
Yes, you will.
Be well. If this podcast resonates with you and you want to dive deeper, check out my blog, Get Real, all in on love, loss, and connection at AmandaMcCoyFlanagan.com. That's McCoy with a K. You can also follow me on Instagram at Amanda McCoy Flanagan.
See you next. Until then, let that soul ride.